listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin. To master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Once you walked in a forest of splendor in which everything you did and everything you thought was aligned. It is possible at this time to begin to return to the old knowledge. Intuitive healer and manifestor Julia Griffin is here to talk about this unique time in history when all sentient beings, animals, plants, trees, and the earth are intent on creating this change. The wolves awakened her to the most incredible light, which opened gifts and brought knowledge that she longs to share. You are creators, and you are born to be creators of beauty, possibility, and joy. Join Julia on a journey into a beautiful and magical world where amazing possibilities exist. Let us help open the door. The Power of Inspiration and Awakening with Julia Griffin starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin, and you're listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience a higher vibration and a new state of mind. And we have really great energy for your experience today, so just wait a minute and you'll hear about it. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I awakened with wolves. When I met a wolf, it talked to me the same way that people talk, and they taught me to read the energy of the heart. As a result, I can intuitively hear plants, animals, and people, and I became an intuitive healer, and I write about it. You can find me at onetrueself.com. Now, today we're talking about the new moon, and I have a very special guest for you. You probably already know her, Jennifer Hoffman. Hey, Jennifer.
Hi, Julia. It's great to be on the show with you again. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's great to have you back. So let me read your bio to them and tell them about you. And then we're going to talk about today's new moon, which is a really big event.
Absolutely.
Jennifer is a lifelong intuitive whose reputation as the world's most accurate intuitive is one of her unique talents that endears her to an audience of millions. She is the founder and leader of the Energy and Self-Awareness movement, and her work in energy, frequency, vibration, congruence, alignment, and resonance has benefited her students since 2004. She's the founder of Becoming 360 Energy Congruence Platform, the Energy Boundary System, and is the author of 8 best-selling books. Jennifer's insights and writings have been read and shared by millions, and her blog proudly has a global audience of over 5 million avid fans every week. A rare combination of business intelligence and intuitive savvy, Jennifer has been a featured expert in, on, and offline publications on business and spiritual topics, produces the world's longest-running top blog and podcast, and her expertise, insights, and wisdom are praised by a client base of over 100,000. So welcome, Jennifer. Impressive bio.
Thank you, Julia. Yeah, 22 years. I started in 2004. It's pretty amazing. And here I thought I'd be doing this for 6 months.
Well, you never know with energy.
Exactly. You never know what the universe has planned for you as well when you have other plans.
So we actually are on one of those dates when the universe has things planned for us.
Absolutely.
And that is this new moon. It's very significant and it's very powerful. Let's just start with the sun, which is life, ego, light, and the moon, which is emotions, and the sea, are very close to Jupiter, which is the planet of good fortune and expansion. Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your take on this? All 3 of these planets are in Cancer as well.
So I access a great astrology database that allows you to do, it has what's called an ephemeris search engine. So you can go back 2,500 years and search on any kind of aspect. And I'm a numbers person, so I love to see numbers and patterns. We've never had a new moon with Jupiter in such close proximity in 2,500 years.
Wow.
So a new moon is new beginnings. The moon rules Cancer. So we have a new moon in the sign of the moon. and we have Jupiter right next to it. And this is, I call this a lucky day. So I sent out an email to my list yesterday and I said, tomorrow's a lucky day. So get your luck basket out and just set intentions and start looking at new potentials. Because when we have this kind of energy coming towards us, we need to use it. We need to take advantage of it. We need to say, okay, I'm going to use today to do something great or do something special or really focus on the things that I want in my life and how I can improve my life or be happier or be more in joy or something that really expands your life. Now, this new moon isn't without some challenging
Mhm.
aspects because, we have to take both sides. But in particular, the Jupiter, Sun, and Moon conjunction is really special and it's really important. And we also have with this new moon what I call an alpha omega portal. So, alpha omega portals, and I started talking about these probably about 2010 or so. It's when you have like planets at the beginning of a sign and at the end of a sign. And then you get the whole journey of when you first start and then when you finish. And here we have Mercury at 28 Cancer. Mercury is called Jupiter's little brother, mainly because Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Mercury rules Gemini, and they are opposite. Jupiter is the higher level of at Sagittarius of Gemini. So here we have not just a powerful new moon, but we have a message about higher thinking, shifting how we view ourselves, how we view the world, how we use energy, how we see ourselves in the world. We have so much power and creative energy at our disposal, and we use literally a tiny bit of it
Okay,
because
you just led into the next question. So we
oh,
know
okay.
that whenever Jupiter is really close to us, that gives opportunities, good luck, just a whole different, a path opens up. So for people who say, how do I get on that path? How do you tell people to open up?
Well, you have to be willing to open up. You have to be willing to shift your perspective, to see a new potential, to actually, the path is there, but if you don't step on it, if you don't see it, you don't go, okay, I think I'm going to take that path, then the path is there. And if you just kind of go, oh, yeah, there's a path. Okay, I'm just going to keep on going this
Yeah,
way
I'm
because
tired today. It's too much trouble.
it must not be for me. It's
Right.
not my lucky day. So Jupiter, it is a planet of blessings, but it's also the planet of expansion. It expands everything. The rising tide lifts all ships. So the good things will look better, the bad things will look worse. And I think that's a blessing in and of itself. When you get to the end of a situation and you arrive at that, I'm not going to take it anymore moment, that's a blessing too. But sometimes it takes a lot to get us there. And a new moon like this, with all of the different aspects, can really bring out. And this, by the way, also happened with the recent solstice we had just not even a week ago. It can bring out the terrible things, but that's only so that we look at them and go, okay, I'm going to shift. Today's the day. I'm going to do it now. And that's what this new moon is all about, beginnings. So this is what, this Jupiter placement in this new moon really can give us a big, not just a nudge, but a shove into a new direction because we just can't take it anymore.
Mhm. And I know too, one of the things that I was reading, I guess I've sort of built it up a little in my mind, is that, Cancer is home, but you have to leave your safe zone for your life to change. And it's usually like, your comfort zone, whatever it is. It's like there are things you shouldn't have in it and there are things you like, and therein lies the struggle.
Cancer also represents, or the moon represents the mother. So this brings up all the mother issues. So we weren't loved enough. We didn't have a good enough mother. Or we had a smothering mother. I know very few people who can say, I had a fabulous mother. But this can bring up mother issues, nurturing, because the mother is the nurturer. It also brings up issues around how we mother ourselves, how we take care of ourselves.
And that's really important. That's been a topic this week is that how when people do something that throws them off being connected, how they go all the way back down into their bad habits really quickly. And I just say, well, the good thing is try to get back in a couple of those good habits and you've created it before, so you can pop right back in.
And you make a good point. Isn't it interesting how no matter how much progress we make, something can happen and we just go right back to zero. It's remember the game Shoots and Ladders,
Mhm.
where you have that shoot, like point number 99 is the shoot. And if you're unlucky enough to get, you go all the way back down to the beginning.
Yeah. The good thing is, I do think there's really supportive energy for getting back up. You could probably just take 2 or 3 days and say, I'm going to really work on my vibration, and it would happen.
Exactly, because all the energies, all the points are there, but you just have to be willing to take that next chance. And I think one of the reasons we don't is because unmet expectations, disappointment, I can't believe these people are doing this. I can't believe that this is happening again. When I think it happens again to test us, are you willing to move beyond this? Are you willing to not let this once again take you back to zero? And the good thing is planets, the cycles come around, the planets keep on turning, they're turning in the same way. So we get another chance. So one thing we shouldn't do is be disappointed in ourselves and look at what we call failures as I did it again. I messed up. I can't do this. I one of my children was like that. Just I don't know if you had a kind of a negative child, but he was so he was so negative. Everything was like, well, it just doesn't work for me, or I can't do that. And from the time he was fairly young, like about 4, he was just this, it was a constant effort to keep him positive, to keep him motivated. And he's still, as an adult, a little bit like that. He's gotten a lot better. But this kind of energy makes me think of him because it's hard to stay on that little narrow track of, okay, just
Mhm.
keep on moving forward. It doesn't matter what's happening. Yes, this came up again, but just keep on moving forward.
Yeah, and that is really a big place where we are right now is with that. And let's see, I wanted to mention the yod aspect, which is that Sun and Moon, Mars and Pluto come together and form an isosceles triangle. That's known as the finger of God.
Mhm.
And it's that we are getting to the realization of our life purpose and our destiny, but at the same time, there are karmic challenges with this, like you just mentioned. Like it's easy to be discouraged right now because the energy is intense.
Right. And a yod, it literally is a finger of God because it points all the energy. It's like it says it's a heightened version of a T square. It points the energy to one particular planet, which means one area of your life is going to get a huge amount of attention. And usually it's the most challenging because it deals with Pluto, but also Mars. Mars eh, is very strongly related to Pluto because Pluto rules Scorpio, but Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. So Mars is actually quite a powerful planet in the zodiac. People think, oh yeah, Mars rules Aries. Aries are always flying off the handle. They're always like, "Pff," and I'm an Aries, so I can talk about Aries. But in actuality, Mars also rules Scorpio, and that gives it a really strong relationship to Pluto. So having Mars and Pluto together in this new moon, both aspected by this new moon, this brings about this idea of change, about raise your vibe, because Pluto's now in Aquarius for the next 20 years. And Aquarius is a 5D sign. Aquarius is the sign of community. It's also an air sign. People think Aquarius, the water bear, and it's got those little waves of its symbol, but Pluto is actually, or Aquarius is actually an air sign. So we have a really strong balance between emotion, thought, Mars in Virgo. So this is where we become the empowered master or the martyred healer, but it's also an earth sign. And then we have a lot of really big presence in Aries, which is a fire sign. So we have all the elements present. And this is like the balance in the zodiac of here are all the areas of your life, get them to where they work together.
I do remember one astrologer telling me, he said, yeah, all of you are saying you're so compassionate. But he said, I know when people are being affected by Mars because they say, I don't care, I'm going to do it. He
Mhm.
said, all the feelings are gone. It's a one-pointed focus when it's Mars.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting. He said, all the Aquarian stuff just goes away, and all you think about is how are you going to get through that door? And there's some truth in that.
Well, again, we go to the certain point and then we just can't do it anymore.
Mhm.
And what's really being highlighted right now and has been for the last several years is our karmic partners, our karmic relationships. And people think, well, this applies to other people. No, your karmic partner, your very most important ones are your family. Your mother is your number one karmic partner. Your father is number two. Siblings are number three. And there's a hierarchy there. And we tend to have a lot of different standards, like the family has one standard, other people have another standard, and partners have another standard. But in reality, they're all pretty much lumped together. And one of the things that's really been happening in the last several years, I'd say the last 2 to 5 years, is our family relationships are falling apart. And it's mainly because what holds us together is that karmic energy. We think, oh, it's all about love and caring. Well, that's not my family. But once we step away from that karmic responsibility, those obligations, and we have enough of, being mistreated or not being treated well, we realize I don't need this in my life. And this is where Pluto and Aquarius comes in because one of the what I call the five C's of 5D is community. Our community is not only our neighborhood where we live, but it's our energetic family. So we're moving from this karmic family into a community where we are connected by energetic frequency, not the frequency of our karma and of the emotions around the karma, but the frequency of our highest vibration and our stronger 5D energy. And this can be very upsetting for some people.
What is upsetting when it happens?
Well, it happens to you. Yeah. And that's the funny thing is when it happens to other people, you're like, oh, that's really too bad. And then it happens to you. It's a completely different thing. It's like, oh, wait a minute. My family is acting badly. My family is being horrible to me. It's a much different attitude and situation when it's our family and we're the ones who are seeing our family literally, and this happened to me just a few months ago, our family connections literally blow up.
Well, it's like a good friend of mine said, she said, maybe, 50 years from now, what they do won't matter. But she said, it matters a lot emotionally because of how it makes you feel. Do you really want to be around people who make you feel that way emotionally? And she said, you're the only person who can decide that, if it's worth it or not worth it to you.
And I think part of the problem with that is with our family, we have this unrealistic expectation that they should behave a certain way because they're family. And I've talked a lot about we have this label that says family, and then we have this whole set of expectations. But as I always say, expectations create a false reality. So here's the reality, here's our expectation. But the problem is that there's nothing in that space but our own energy, hoping that someday they'll be able to fill that energy gap and become the family that we want, become the people that we think they should be. But the truth is, I don't know anybody who has that kind of family. I mean, I might know one or two people or have known one or two people across decades of knowing people who have a family that's actually really great, where everybody gets along. And I think people need to realize that the opposite is usually true. Families are fraught with problems. And if you are, any kind of energy worker or healer or intuitive or mystic, you probably look at your family and think, who are you people? Who, I don't even belong here. How did I manage to end up with you? Because you just don't fit.
Yeah, I
And
can remember as a child thinking, I wonder if I'm adopted. And I thought, no, I couldn't be because I look like them. So I thought, well, maybe it would be nice to be adopted.
I always thought I was adopted too. I was sure I was adopted. I used to tell people I was adopted, and my mother found out, was furious with me. But I look exactly like my mother, so there's no way I was adopted. But like you, I really thought, like, I look at these people, think, I don't know you people. Like I don't even belong here. Who are you people?
I thought it would just make so much sense.
I
It would
agree.
be why I didn't fit in with the way everybody else was and what they wanted.
hmm I didn't even look like them when I was growing up. I have a brother and sister. My brother and sister looked like twins. I looked like, the butcher's daughter or something, like the
Mhm.
postman's daughter, because I look completely different from them. I still do, but I look just like my mother.
I think one thing that's really nice about this time is that there are enough people on higher vibrations so that it's
Yeah,
really okay to be different. Like you can enjoy being different and they can enjoy being different. And that's a very
exactly.
pleasurable thing.
You're right. When I started over 20 years ago in 2004, I was a part of a very small group of people. And even before that, I started a spiritual community when I lived in Houston in 1990. And it was very exciting, and there were lots of people. Everybody was interested because it was spiritual, but it was a fad. And there were very few people who actually stuck around. And then it just kind of died out in the 90s, and came back I want to say it started in 2003, which is kind of when I
Mhm.
started working and channeling. And then it really took off and really has been building. But for the first, I'm going to say 15 years, there was a very small community of people. And you're right, it has grown to a sizable number. And now so many people are interested in spirituality and so many people are on board.
Right. And that's pretty exciting. That's a really nice part of it. The
hmm
other thing, too, that I think we're experiencing is, in the age of Pisces, people would just pray, and they had the priest, and these miracles and things happened. And if you had been a priestess or if you had been involved in the church, if you overgave, the universe would reward you with all this energy. Now, if you overgive, you're likely to get sick or really upset because it's the age of Aquarius. It's supposed to be more balanced than that. And I think people get confused.
Right. And there are still people who say, I mean, whether it's the spiritual world or the business world, give them a lead magnet, show them your best stuff, and they'll love you for it. I'm thinking, okay, so when are they supposed to pay you? You're right that with Aquarius, which again is ruled not just by Uranus, but Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. There's a new kind of sense of, okay, what do I get out of this, which is correct, which is what we need to
Yeah,
be saying. Am I receiving? I'm giving. What am I getting back? Am I giving to someone who has nothing to give to me, in which case I should probably manage that energy and have stronger energy boundaries? Or am I receiving an equal amount to what I'm giving? Because, it's like writing checks. You keep on writing checks out of your checking account without putting any money in it. Eventually, you'll have no more money. So
exactly.
we need that energetic balance to maintain our congruence. And it has never been as important as it is now, because we need to continue to expand our reality into 5D. We can't do that if we're constantly leaking energy out the other side, because we're giving to so many people and not getting anything in return.
Right. So that's another thing, it's like there was probably a point in my life with some people in my family I would have thought, well, I'll pray and meditate and see everything differently for them. And now I'm almost to the point of thinking, well, I've done enough.
Which is a great place to be. And you probably have done enough, because one of the messages of this new moon, and indeed of the solstice as well, is that you have to honor other people's choices and their energetic sovereignty. And I always say, even if you think someone is making the most ridiculous, stupid choices you ever thought, they're still being energetically sovereign. And we need to respect that. If we shine the light in their face and say, "Oh, look at the light, it's so great." When they're like, "Turn that light off," we need to respect that and go, "Okay, the lights. This is not the right thing for them."
Right. They need to stay at the level that they're at and learn from there.
Well, that's
And
where
that,
they feel safe.
oh, so that's why they want to stay there, is because it's safe.
It's safe for them. This is what they know. This is where their comfort zone is. And we can't be arrogant enough to think that we know what's best for them.
No, it's hard enough to know what's best for yourself and the people that want to change.
Exactly. And you said the operative word, the ones who want to change and who see value in changing.
Because that's a big thing. I mean, I think looking at this, that it's changing from like, yes, I'm comfortable and happy at home, to my home is that connection with the universe.
Hmm.
And that doesn't
Exactly.
mean that you might not stay in your home, but you also might not. You might move, or whatever your consciousness is may change from I'm safe in physical reality to the universe is moving me to a different place, and that's fine.
And I'll learn to adjust and to adapt, and I'll embrace the new experiences that I have there,
Hmm.
and it'll be fine. But when you are really set in your ways and you're stuck in a certain frequency and you don't see any value in changing, trying to get someone to move off that spot, is a waste of time and energy. But it also shows a certain level of arrogance, like I know better than you do about what's right and best for you.
Right. So I guess everyone is sort of choosing their place. There's still time to change, but people are choosing their point and frequency right now.
Well, and they're choosing the one that's best for them.
Hmm.
So we can look at them and go, how can you do that? Like this is so wrong for you. Look, this is so much better. But for that person, this is where they need to be. And this is what's right for them. And again, we do them and ourselves a huge disservice by arguing with them and trying to point them in the right direction and shining more light on them and giving them more energy, when what we really need to do is just leave them alone.
Right. Just go ahead and walk on the path and let them stay where they are. If they need
Exactly.
us, they will come back, right?
Exactly. If when they need you, they'll find you, believe me.
Hmm.
They will come back in spades.
Well, otherwise, it's just all good. I was going to say, though, part of that is a surrender, and I always think of the new moon as a surrender, because there's this point of stillness, the same way that you mentioned with the summer solstice. It just stops on the new moon.
Mhm. Well, and it's the concept of surrender. People think of surrender as, I surrender, I give up, I'm not going to try anymore. But surrender really means to stop resisting, stop fighting. When you surrender, you stop fighting. And for us, this is about surrendering to the new potentials, the new levels of joy, the new relationships, the new connections. And it is hard because part of us has to just literally give up our expectations, our agendas, the things we've worked on, all the time, energy, and effort we've put towards that situation or that person. We need to just cut it off and go, okay, I'm not doing anymore because obviously this is not the right thing for me.
It's just a new direction that we're all being guided into, I think.
Right. But we don't know what that new direction is. And we want to
I
bring
know.
everybody with us. So we have this idea that, somehow our entire tribe's going to come with us and we'll all be holding hands and getting along and, singing Kumbaya and walking into the sunset together, which is
Right.
a
That's going to be about as much fun as it was at Baptist Bible camp. Okay,
right.
it's time for us to go to break. I'm Julia Griffin. I'm here with Jennifer Hoffman, and we're talking about today's new moon, its benefits, and the changes that it's bringing. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Julia Griffin, and I'm here with Jennifer Hoffman, and we're talking about some upcoming changes, different ways to get to more light, more ascension, and the importance of today's new moon. So, Jennifer, you were writing about portals, and I wondered if you would tell us about that. If I'm correct, I think you have three of those, and they relate to the planets.
Exactly. So I call them the ascension bridges, and we have three this time. This is like so rare, and this is, such a wonderful occurrence. It might not feel so wonderful while it's happening because it involves, major changes in beliefs, relationships ending, and I'm not talking about, oh, a friend who no longer talks to you. I'm talking about relationships that you have invested lifetimes in, suddenly just coming to an end, maybe because you decide, oh, I don't need to do this anymore, or this is not working for me, or finally looking at someone and realizing, oh, this person is just not the right person for me. So the very first ascension bridge, and I want you to think of ascension bridges literally like bridges or tunnels between dimensions. And if you ever watched the show like Stargate SG-1, where they step in, they dial it up, they step in, and then poof, they're in another world. This is very similar to that. So the first one is the new moon with Jupiter, moon, and sun. It's in Cancer. Well, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, but it's the traditional ruler of Pisces. And we have Mars involved too, because Mars is over there in Virgo. Virgo is the opposite sign, the lower octave of Pisces. So the water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So we have Jupiter literally creating this bridge between the emotional sign of Cancer and Pisces, including Mars in there. And this is all about controlling our emotions, which is our weakest point. We run on the emotions. If you've ever been angry about something, or you ever, something happened maybe 30 years ago and you think of it and you're still really angry that it happened, our emotional body usually runs the show. It
Or I
just
even think as an empath, when you talk to someone and they don't like what you're saying, you're like, "Ooh, let me get away from
exactly.
them."
So that first bridge is Jupiter in Cancer, that is pulling in that spiritual mastery, going through the sign of the emotions to transformation, which is Scorpio and Mars, and then Pisces, which is, that whole mastery journey. Then we have the second bridge, that's Uranus in Gemini, which right now it's at 29 degrees Taurus, but it's close enough because it's going to be going into Gemini in about, I don't know, 7 or 8 days. So it's close enough. So Uranus rules Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign. The three air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Here we have the thought aspect. The lower thought in Gemini, Gemini rules communication, it rules siblings, it rules short travel, and Aquarius is the 5D sign. And we have this bridge now that takes us from Gemini and lower thinking into Aquarius and 5D thinking. And this is kind of pushing us into this higher octave of living, but also hoping that we can see how important our thought is. Thoughts are things. Do you remember that whole
Yeah,
from
they've been
the
measured to have an energetic output.
exactly.
Thoughts actually have energetic output.
And I can't remember who it was. I think her first name is Judith, but she did this experiment where she had people all over the world, and there were like 20, 30,000, maybe it was even 200,000 people. And they were given a set of things to focus on. And they had machines that measured the vibrational energy in different places. And it was shown with the scientific experiment that people concentrating on a specific thing raised that vibration. They could measure it. And the people didn't have to be in the same place. They were all over the world. So our thoughts create, and our thoughts are really important. So if we manage the emotions, we manage the thinking, then we can really change the frequency, not only in our own lives, but change the frequency of the planet. with an important caveat to mention, we can't change what other people think, say, or do. And then we have the third bridge, which Saturn, and Saturn's been such a big player for the last few years. Saturn was in Capricorn, where we had, in March 2020, we had the infamous Saturn-Pluto conjunction. We have Saturn in Aquarius, which it rules Aquarius. We had Saturn in Pisces. Now we have Saturn in Aries, of course, traveling with Neptune. With a lot of astrologers said, oh, Saturn, Neptune, oh, that's going to be so terrible. I think Saturn and Neptune together has been a real blessing for us because Saturn brings discipline. And I don't know, I'm a very spiritual person, and I know you're a very spiritual person. And we both know spiritual people who are so far off the planet that you can't even talk to them. There's no more of this la la land spirituality. This is grounded spirituality. This is spiritual integration. I always say it's just as bad to be way off in left field spiritually to where you can't even connect to the material reality as it is to not be spiritual at all. Both of those don't serve any purpose.
No.
So here we have Saturn in Aries with Neptune, and bring again Neptune and Aries. Neptune rules Pisces, so we have a big Alpha Omega portal, which lasts for the whole time Neptune is in Aries, which is what, 14 years. That's going to really ground our spirituality into a 3D, 5D balanced integration that everyone can understand and everyone can integrate. Spirituality isn't, the realm of the super spiritual. It's not out there. The veil isn't separating us anymore. This is embodied spirituality.
It's about getting rid of a lot of the illusions about
Exactly.
spirituality
Or
and making it more
living
so.
in the illusion.
Mhm. But making it so that it's more real.
Spiritual people, they've been, like talked about, like there's some kind of alternate reality. And I know spiritual people who think they live in an alternate reality. I'd consider myself a really spiritual person. I still cook dinner every day. I still do laundry. I still take my garbage out. It's the embodiment. It's how you live your spirituality that becomes important.
What was it that was the Buddhist thing? What do you do after enlightenment? And the monk said, chop wood and carry water. But it's
Exactly.
different.
Exactly. You have a different perspective on it. Living that spirituality and really living that spiritual embodiment means you see your life, you see the world in a light of potential. You don't see limitations, you see potential, but you also have stronger energy boundaries. You manage your energy better. You're more self-aware. You learn to say no.
Yeah. And when the energy's not in alignment with you, like I'll go, can't go in the grocery store today. I guess I'll come back tomorrow.
There's a grocery store by me, and I've never liked that grocery store. I've only been there once in the 7 years I've lived here. And there's something weird about the energy of that store. I cannot go there.
That's
So
what I'm saying. Yeah.
Mhm. You
You
become
just start making different choices.
well, and you respect that aspect of yourself.
Hmm. Yeah,
And it becomes an integrated part of your life instead of something that you just kind of pay attention to when you need something.
right. And it all becomes what is it energetically? So I think one of the important things when you were talking about it, I saw like a new giant antenna, and that was with Uranus and Gemini. That's going to be very different.
Well, Uranus has been in Gemini since what, 1941? So Uranus was in Gemini, I think, the entire World War II. I don't think we're going to have another World War because we have Pluto and Aquarius, but we are certainly going to have a different perspective on the world and how we see ourselves in the world.
Right. And if you think about it, everybody was listening to radios a lot then, and they had things in front of movies that were the news. That was when the news started really coming to people. There was more communication.
And everybody dressed better. I hope they bring that back.
I did
Fashion
dress a
was
lot better. I would love to have some of those clothes, quite frankly.
Mhm. I was going to say fashion was a lot better. It was the days of Edith Head and Coco Chanel, and
Yeah,
certainly,
that
certainly
would be
I see
exciting,
that.
but I don't know what aspect we would need with that. So, what would be the best way for people to tune into these bridges that you're talking about?
Well, first to realize that they're there and that they're not there to cause problems for you or cause challenges in your life. They're really there for you. For example, the Jupiter, Sun, and Moon is really there for you to look at how you can master your emotions in a more spiritually empowered context, not have no emotions, but look at the energy of emotion and how the energy of emotion impacts your life and how the energy of emotion is propelling you to react instead of respond, to be out of control instead of in control, and to see how like emotional trauma, which is our greatest weakness,
Mhm.
is not helping you, and to learn how you can heal that.
Right. And I think another thing when we're talking about it is that I know and I forget, but emotion isn't always real and it comes and it goes. And we tend to think it's real.
Well, it's interesting because the word trauma is from the German word Traum, which is dream. So trauma happens after the incident. So
Right.
trauma is what we create, the dream, the illusion we create after the incident. And trauma is real. It has PTSD is a real thing. But how much we allow that trauma to run our lives, to rule our emotions, to become how we live our lives through the trauma instead of realizing, okay, it was a point in time. How can I move through this? And how can I not just move through it, but move beyond it and close that door?
And another aspect of it is that for many people who are spiritual, they're also empaths to some degree. So we're feeling a lot more emotion than
Mhm.
most people would, but you still have to learn not to overreact to it all the time.
Well, you also have to realize, and you've talked about this, what's yours and what's not yours.
Right.
Just because it's out there doesn't mean you have to pick it up and try and process it. And so many people are deciding, I don't want to do this anymore. And they just kind of throw their emotions out there like they would throw, or out their car window. It's like, well, you're supposed to work through that. You're not supposed to just throw it out there for somebody else to take care of.
I think it's helpful if you can say, I feel this way. Is it me? Is it someone else? Why do I feel this way?
Exactly.
And people don't usually think much about emotion. They just think they feel that way or they suppress it.
Well, emotion is an energy, and people think emotion is a feeling. So the feeling comes from the energy. So the key to really working through it is looking at it from its energetic aspect and saying, well, this is the energy. Do I want to have this energy in my life? Yes or no? And as soon as you say no, the energy goes
Right.
because now
Or
you
as soon as
just,
you identify who's sending it to you, it goes.
Mhm.
Well, not always, but pretty short period of time it
Well, you
goes.
have a really different perspective on it. Now you
Hmm.
have a different opinion of it.
Right. Now you have a boundary with the person or the event that's sending it to you.
Exactly. Because if you realize, oh, this is an energy, I'm creating it or somebody's sending it to me, versus, oh, I feel terrible. I don't know what to do. There's a
Right.
whole world of difference between those two perspectives. One is, I'm a victim and I don't know what to do. The other is, oh, look, this is, you're educated, you're informed, you're kind of standing above it, looking down at it and going, well, I don't want that.
Right. I can go return to sender always. Sometimes I go around singing that Elvis song when someone is sending me energy, and then that makes me laugh, and there's even less of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a useful thing to do with it. So I'm thinking, because it's such a great idea, what would it be like if more people were having 5D thoughts? That would just change the whole equation, wouldn't it?
It would change the whole equation. Remember, like we said earlier, everybody doesn't want to be at that vibration. So what would happen and what is happening now is we would have a much bigger energy gap between the people who are in the 3D side and the people who are on the 5D side. And we would start really noticing a lot more the people and the situations that we don't need to be part of.
Right.
Yes, it would raise the overall frequency, and we're seeing that too. It would
Hmm.
raise the overall frequency, but it would also make it harder for us to commingle, to connect with people who aren't at that level, which we probably don't do anyway. Like
Right.
I don't do drugs. I don't know anybody who does. That's just not my reality. So people who do those things, I don't even know them. They aren't my friends. And it's not that
Right.
I'm against them. If they want to do it, fine, but I don't. So I have nothing in common with them.
So it's like there are enough people to sort of section it off. Like they'll stay over here and we'll stay over there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's again, it's not about separation or discrimination. It's really about the people who are now carrying the densest energy. There's that energy is now because it's not spread out amongst the world. You can actually see it now, you can feel it. The people who are carrying that density are now way off in a little corner by themselves because nobody wants it.
Hmm. Yeah. So that will be very interesting. Now, what do you think Pluto and Aquarius will do? 20
Well,
years, that's a long time.
Pluto and yeah, I was thinking about how old I'll be when Pluto leaves Aquarius. I'll be
I don't know,
pretty
you might
old.
you might be younger. We don't know what's going to happen with all this high-powered
That's true.
energy.
So Pluto and Aquarius again last happened in what 1778. It was called the Age of Enlightenment. So we are now in the second age of enlightenment. Pluto in Aquarius literally brings enlightenment. It brings new thought. It brings the desire for enlightenment, for higher frequency living. Some of the world's best music happened when Pluto was in Aquarius back in the 17 and 1800s. There was, the Industrial Revolution, there was inventions, there were, a lot of new ideas and new thought came through. And with Pluto there, it actually makes the adoption and the transformation happen. So we don't necessarily throw everything off and go, here, we're going to do everything as a different way. But it's more like there's more interest in doing things new ways. There's going to be more interest in 5D and in the betterment of the whole human condition. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius, well, and Pluto was in Capricorn, it was the age of the monarchies that were pretty much decimated, and the beginning of the concept of self-sovereignty. All men are created equal. Back in the 1700s, when that was written, that was considered heresy. You were a subject, you belonged to the monarch. I mean, you were their subject. If they said off with your head, off with your head. Now, Pluto in Aquarius is about the rise in energetic sovereignty. We are energetically sovereign. And this is going to be our mantra for the next 20 years, developing our energetic sovereignty. And again, the idea of not just aligning with it, but the integration part. How does it fit in your life? And then the embodiment, living through that.
Yeah, that will be a big change.
It is going to be a big change for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But not just that we have to, but when other people don't start matching our shift in frequency, we start seeing again the energy gap. We start, moving away from them, and not on purpose and not deliberately, but there they are, and we're moving forward, and we look back and go, well, what are you doing back there? Well, they've decided that this is where they want to be, and we have no choice but to move forward. But we're not moving into some dark void. We're moving into the sense of this 5D reality, community, connection, creativity, collaboration, cooperation. This is going to be the new life and lifestyle for the people who want it, and the ones who don't, they won't.
Hmm. I'm laughing about it because I remember when I first moved to the mountains, there would be commercials for big truck rodeos where people would go and watch big trucks run over each other and things. And I was just thinking, well, I never went to one, and I certainly never met anyone who wanted to go to one. But that's an example of how I heard all of this on, the
Mhm.
television, but you would not never go. Only the opposite. Probably those people will say, no, I don't want their vibration.
I don't want to, yeah, I don't want to do that. That's just not part of my reality.
Yeah,
One of the last things I want to mention about this new moon is that if you look at the chart, there's a very difficult angle. It's called a quincunx, which is 150 degrees
right.
between all those new moon planets and Pluto in Aquarius. The quincunx is uncomfortable because it forces change. It creates really uncomfortable situations. So new moon energies last for 2 weeks until the full moon, but I think we're going to see some changes come about.
We're getting pushed into it now. It's,
It's
it's almost like it's saying choose one side or the other.
right, and I think what you use the word push. I think what's going to push us is that we're going to start seeing people as they are, because they're probably going to, in our minds, behave badly or not cooperate. And we'll think, well, why are you behaving this way? The thing I want to stress here is this is how they've always behaved. So they're not doing anything different. We're doing something different. We are not accepting or tolerating that behavior anymore. We're seeing it from a completely different perspective.
Yeah, I can fine tune it now, but I know when I first started hearing people's thoughts, people who were really nice to me would also have really negative thoughts about me, and I would think, no wonder I never felt comfortable with them. They really don't like me. But I would always think that they're so nice to me. Why don't I ever want to have a friendship with them?
Mhm.
And it was because I was aware on some level of what they were saying. When I could hear it, why bother? But that's probably what's going to happen.
Well, people can't hide their real self from us anymore. And we can't hide their real self from ourselves either. We tend to look at people and we see them as we wish they would be or want them to be. And then we kind of hide our eyes to look at the real self. That's not going to be possible anymore. We're going to see people exactly as they are, which is our signal to continue that relationship or turn around and walk the other way. And there's really no other option at this point because sitting around and waiting for them to change or hoping they'll change, it's just not going to be an option anymore, where it has been for us for a long time.
I know. Even if you knew, you could kind of pretend like you didn't see it all. So,
I can remember in dealings with my family, seeing people in my family, and some of them are nice, some of them are just really awful, and just thinking, and I did this for a long time. If I was nice enough, if I was nicer, if I did more, if I was more supportive and more helpful, I would have the relationship with them that I wanted. And then one day, and it was about 10 years ago, I realized this is never going to happen. Like it's just not going to happen. So
mhm,
I need to stop because I'm throwing energy at something that is literally never going to manifest.
right. And so that's another shift that we're going through as we go to that higher level.
Mhm.
So we're coming to the end. Why don't you share your website if you have anything that's upcoming? People would like to hear about it, I'm sure.
So you can find me at enlighteninglife.com. Sign up for my newsletter and get your free ABC guide to energy mastery, which is a free little PDF that I wrote a few years ago. And as far as coming up, I have some great programs on how to live in 5D, how to manage your frequency and vibration. Again, all things that I've been teaching for many, many years. And if you want to find my books, I have so many.
Mhm.
I put a book site up, jenniferhoffmanbooks.com. You can find all my books there. I've got more books coming out probably this year and into next year. I'm a writer. Writing is
Okay, so
how
they
I
can find
channel.
you and find lots of material. And if
Exactly.
you want more from me, you can go to my website and sign up. I'm at One True Self, onetrueself.com for my newsletter and other information. So namaste. Great to have you, Jennifer. Thank you for sharing so much.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you, everyone, and good luck with this new moon because it's really something.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin to master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Join us next time as Julia takes us deeper into the memory of the moments of light where transcendence and enlightenment emerge. The memory of the jewel of consciousness is always lived within you to tap into waves of energy and create huge changes by imagining the beauty of the vision and desires that are hidden in the heart. Learn to find your way back to nature, beauty, and your own heart, which holds the secrets of your existence and future. To discover more about Julia's adventures, animal communication, and the teachings she brings to every show, visit onetrueself.com. That's onetrueself.com. That's ONE, trueself.com.